Serious. What was your biggest "we need to leave now" moment? 6th grade school field trip, basically an outdoor park with some woods, volleyball courts and fishing. There was a shack in the woods and apparently an old man lived there. He came out of his creepy shack with a gun and started yelling at some of the kids. A lot of the kids were crying. We had to get on the bus immediately and the police were called. That was the end of that tradition. Met a guy off Tinder at night. We walked around the park near his house and he suggested we go back inside to play Mario Kart. He warned me that his place was a little messy and I said okay, not a problem. I go inside and I am absolutely shocked. He's a hoarder and lives with his parents. The entire apartment smelled like cat piss. Poor cat. I was panicking on the inside cause I have asthma and I am a clean freak, but I didn't want to make him feel bad. It was absolutely horrible and disgusting and so hard to breathe. I was getting some super creepy vibes from him too, and I went to the bathroom and texted my friend to call me in 5 minutes for a level 10 emergency. She called and was crying hysterically on the phone and I quickly got up and left. Hurricane Katrina, rightfully so. I used to live right by a military base. I drove a state over as a single mother with my toddler. We came back, the roof over the gas station across the street was gone. The base was underwater. You literally could not see the tip of the top of the building. They were all submerged. My street was covered by overthrown roofs and trees. I came back a little too early. A dresser fell on my son. There was no phone lines. I had no cell phone, no food, no gas. It was a horrible experience. I've been reading pretty intense stuff here, so I don't know if mine really fits, but when I was 13 I was walking through the forest and a deer crossed the path right in front of me. Like only a foot away. I was quite surprised but kept walking and the same deer did that again. This repeated itself for a minute, then I just turned around and accepted that I shouldn't keep walking once the deer nearly knocked into me. I go fishing every so often and I try to find smaller bait and tackle shops because they tend to have more variety than a gas station or Walmart and better prices than Cabela's. I was driving and I saw a building that had a tackle shop sign, so I decided to investigate. I walked inside and it didn't look like a tackle shop at all, it looked like someone's living space. When I said hello, I heard a pump-action shotgun being cocked. I never knocked out of somewhere as fast as I did that day. My sir and I were at Walmart. I walked into the bathroom to pee. When I walked in I saw fresh blood all around the floor, the walls, and the mirrors. I told the employee at customer service. Grabbed my sir and left. Found my 30-something self at a party with 5 or 6 17-ish-year-olds. Openly snorting coke, with a bunch of cash, booze, and weed laying out too. I live on a big hill in the country. I was abruptly woken up and told to get dressed. I looked out my window and the top of my hill was on fire. I lost my shit, grabbed my cats and dogs, got in my horses, loaded into the trailer and got the hell out. That was terrifying, watching my hill on fire getting closer and closer to my house. My partner, stepson, and myself went to go see Nelly play a free show at Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas last summer. It was fun as heck, yelling along to "Hot in Here" until a massive group of people start running by saying "gun." Got the freak out to there as soon as possible. Don't know if there was a gun or not, but with the amount of police driving to that area I can only assume so. At my family's cabin, and we were told by my aunt that there was a mama moose up the mountain by the reservoir. We went huckleberry picking and we got in the thick of the forest. Out of nowhere my wife was running away on her tippy toes. It was almost like in a cartoon. She said that she found the mama moose and accidentally was like 10 feet away from her. We ended up booking it down the mountain faster than you can say huckleberry pancakes. Not really mine, but my best friend's mom. Me and a friend were swimming when it started to storm. We stupidly carried on swimming cause we wet anyways, what's some rain going to do? Her mom came outside and shouted at us to come inside, which we did while moaning and complaining that she was being an annoying adult. Less than 3 minutes later, as we had entered her room to get undressed, we heard this almighty crack and the power went out. Lightning had hit the pool. They ended up having to empty the pool a week later as it had messed up the chemicals. Not sure how, as I'm not a pool expert. The water turned all green and murky. I actually made a post about it on our creepy encounters. Basically, I was hanging out in a park with a former co-worker and I realized while he was talking that he was seriously mentally ill. And I got scared about the violent things he told me about before, plus the fact that he just confessed to being in love with me. My survival instinct went on. I realized that I needed to GTFO if that he tried to lure me in an alley while I was escaping. Australian here was chilling in the dining room with my family, and I looked out the window to see a fire just spreading across one of our neighbor's paddock field. For those who don't know, being 15 tilde at the time, I just kinda asked my mum what was going on and she started freaking out. So while we grabbed whatever we could, my dad stayed behind watering what he could with a hose. Thankfully no houses were burnt down, our property is okay, and the fire was suspected to be started by the neighbor's saw. That's not the first time they've set fire to the paddock, and probably won't be the last. Edit. I thought that they were burning the grass, which is a common thing that we do to prevent fires, but it was too big to be burning off. This happened to my dad when I was maybe 3 years old, so I don't remember it, but I've been told the story. One of my dad's old mates had a daughter my age, maybe a year older. And we were at their house and my dad and his mate were having beers and I was playing with the mate's daughter and my mum was holding my sister, maybe 18 months at the time. Out of nowhere my dad's mate grabs his daughter and says to my dad, "Oi mate, check this out," and hands his daughter a full glass of rum and coke, which she promptly sculls. From what I was told, my dad scooped me up, grabbed my mum and sister, and we got the hell out of there. When I was traveling in rural northern China with my siblings and mother, many years ago, this hotel owner and his henchmen got aggressive and tried to close a door so we couldn't escape while we were there, perhaps so he could then blackmail my other relatives for some extorted money. My mother, siblings and I then hightailed it out of there and they didn't dare stop us, perhaps for fear of the local police. Biking through Arkansas, the entire time. The nearly abandoned park we stayed at, the way people silently stepped out of their house to watch us go by, it was the most unwelcome I've ever felt. It made my stomach hurt. I hauled ass. Finishing up a nice dinner on a date with my girlfriend when I see the old girlfriend bussing tables and moving away one table at a time. I had nothing to be ashamed of, but for some reason my heart started pounding and my fight or flight reflex kicked in entirely on the flight side of things. I put money down on the table, took my girlfriend's hand, and pretty much dragged her out of the restaurant. When we got to the car, I finally relaxed enough to be able to explain what happened, but to this day I still don't know why. I was playing in the street with some friends when another friend called and said it was pouring rain at their house, which was weird because they only lived a block away. A friend of mine yelled, "Look," and we saw a wall of rain coming towards us. We darted in the other direction as fast as we could, but we were soaked not too long after. Was walking my 100-pound Dane mix in the mountains. We were next to a 3-foot hill with tall grass on it and we heard a very low-frequency growl. My dog, who was king crap of the whole mountain and every dog on it, whimpered and started shaking. I stared into the grass but didn't see anything. Then another growl and we walked quickly away. Once we got around the corner we ran home like sissies. 2 days later my neighbor killed a 200-pound mountain lion that was in his yard attacking his llama. Close call. My 2 cousins and I, when we were pretty young, had this habit to go neck deep or even mouth deep onto the sea. One day I felt something trying to push me further into the sea and only my toes stood on the way. I immediately told my cousins to get out and we returned to the dry sand. Probably only played on the knee-deep level for the rest of the day, but would return to neck-deep the next day. My elderly neighbor stopped by one day and asked to borrow my phone as his had broken. When I asked if he was okay, he stated that there were some people from the nursing home in his house that shouldn't have been there. We talked to the police, and he went home. The police called me back with more information, so I went to my neighbor's house and started asking questions. He invited me in to talk to one of the people in question, but there wasn't anyone there. Turns out, he was hardcore hallucinating. I knocked out of there before calling the police back and asking for a wellness check. They took him away in an ambulance, and I never heard what happened after. Was one of the scariest moments of my life, though. I was in downtown Cleveland for the Cavaliers championship parade in 2016. We were down the street from Public Square when some gangbanger wannabe shot a 13-year-old girl by Tower City. I've never seen mass hysteria like that. People running for their lives. Saw a mom pick up her 2 children, one under each arm, and sprint down the street like Jim Brown in his prime. We hopped on the closest bus. The driver shut the door and made a beeline over the bridge out of downtown. The guy did a great job of keeping us safe in a scary situation. Big shout out to Cleveland RTA. I was a relatively new driver at the time. My little brother and I were driving through Kansas City on a road trip and took a wrong turn. Got into a pretty seedy part of town and stopped to ask directions. This was way back before Google Maps or GPS. From 2 police officers walking into a store. They looked at me and then each other and said, "Miss, you need to get back in your car." Now, gave me good directions to get out though. We just had a 7.1 earthquake, shallow 2. Things were crashing and falling around us, so I grabbed my coworker, who was hiding under her desk and frozen in fear, and we got outside, where all the vehicles in the car park were bouncing like basketballs due to aftershocks. One day I was out watering some baby trees on my in-laws' farm on a hot summer's day. Everything around us was field except for these small trees. I heard what I thought sounded like rustling leaves, but a lot of them. And it kept getting louder. I look over and see a literal wall of bees moving towards us, buzzing loudly. My hubby told me to run. We dropped everything and ran to the farmhouse. The group of bees ended up on one of the baby trees in a big clump. Apparently that's just how they travel when their numbers outgrow their hive. It was pretty dramatic stuff. Was at a house party when someone wanted to show off their AR-15. They took the clip out before they showed everyone. Later, a different dude went and got it to take pictures for his Snapchat, but while he was trying to get his app to load, the gun went off and shot near my leg. I looked at my friend who I brought with me and we just got up and left. Wherever you go, there you are. Don't never try. If practice makes perfect, then I have 7 balls. And don't forget to like that button and subscribe that thingy thing for some everyday stuff. Till mañana.